rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ the Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power where we're gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Welcome. The First Baptist Church of Dorchester, Massachusetts invites you to attend our Christmas project, a Zoom production of Charles Dickens' classic, A Christmas Carol. Now, as we are all socially distancing, we thought we would present the production as if it were a radio play. So get some cookies and hot chocolate, find a comfortable spot to sit down with a comforter, turn down your lights, listen, and let your imagination take charge.
Go rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ the Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power where we're gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Our story takes us back to England in the 1840s and to a narrow street in one of the business districts of London. It is a gloomy day in late December. A light dusting of snow covers the sidewalk. It's already getting dark. A dull light is coming from one of the shops over which hangs the sign, Scrooge and Marley. Now you must understand, Marley had been dead for 7 years. There is no doubt about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner, Scrooge. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Now, I don't mean to say that I know why doornails should be considered particularly dead, but that is the saying. You will therefore permit me to repeat, Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead. He and Marley had been partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole legatee, his sole friend, and his sole mourner. But the mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to the point. There is no doubt that Marley was dead. This must be understood. Scrooge had never removed Marley's name on the shop sign, and there it stood for years afterwards above the door. Scrooge and Marley. Oh, but Scrooge was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, as solitary as an oyster. External heat or cold had little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm him, and no cold could chill him. Nobody ever stopped Scrooge in the street to say, "My dear Scrooge, how are you?" Not even beggars approached him. He didn't care. He edged his way along the crowded paths of light, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance. It was Christmas Eve. Old Scrooge was busy at his desk. He kept his office door open so he might keep an eye on his clerk, Bob Cratchit, who worked in a dismal little cell beyond copying letters. Scrooge had a very small coal fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like it might be only one coal. The clerk tried to warm himself at the candle, but he, not being a man of strong imagination, failed in that task. Outside carolers were cheerfully singing, "God bless ye, merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay." The door opened, and in stepped Scrooge's nephew Fred, with a warm greeting.
"A Merry Christmas, Uncle Scrooge."
Ah, humbug.
"Christmas a humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that."
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
"What right have you to be dismal? You're rich enough."
Bah, humbug.
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be when I live in a world of fools? Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older, but not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
Uncle,
Nephew, you keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
but you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. Much good it has ever done you.
There are many things from which I have derived good, but didn't make me any money. Christmas among the rest. I always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable time. The only time I know of when men and women open their shut up hearts freely and think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
The clerk involuntarily applauded, but becoming immediately aware of the impropriety, he looked down at his work.
Let me hear another sound out of you, Cratchit, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation.
Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow.
I'll see you in hell first.
But why?
Why did you get married?
Because I fell in love.
Because you fell in love. Good afternoon.
But Uncle, you never came to see me before. Why give that as a reason for not coming now?
Good afternoon.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Can't we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry to find you so resolute. We've never had any quarrel. But I've made this trip in homage of Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So, a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Good afternoon.
As Fred left, a well-dressed lady with a cheerful countenance entered with a notebook and papers in hand and began to address Scrooge.
Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Stooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago, this very night.
Oh, I have no doubt his generosity is well represented by his surviving partner. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Stooge, it is most desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute. Many thousands are in want of common necessities. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts.
Are there no prisons?
Well, yes, there are plenty of prisons.
And the workhouses? Are they still in operation?
They are. I wish I could say they are not.
Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop their useful course.
But they carry furnished Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude. A few of us are trying to raise money to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time because it is when warmth is kindly felt. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
Oh, you want to be anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many cannot go there, and many would rather die.
Well, if they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population. It's not my business. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people's. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon.
As the door opened, the carolers from the street started to enter, singing, "Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day."
Go away.
Grabbing a ruler, Scrooge lunged at the startled singers, who beat a hasty retreat back into the foggy night. Scrooge then turned back to face his clerk.
You'll want all day tomorrow off, I suppose.
This is quite convenient, sir.
Well, it's not convenient. If I was to stop half a crown from your pay for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. And yet you don't think me ill-used when I have to pay a day's wages for no work. It's a poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier next morning.
Cratchit promised he would, and with that the office was closed, and in a twinkling Cratchit ran home to his family. Scrooge took his dinner at his usual dismal tavern, and after reading all the newspapers, went home to bed. His chambers were in a gloomy suite of rooms that had once belonged to his partner Jacob Marley. Now there was nothing at all particular about the door-knocker. Scrooge had seen it night and morning, every day. No man can explain to me what next happened. Scrooge, having his key in the door lock, saw on the knocker, not the knocker, but Marley's face. Scrooge was startled, but he still put his hand upon the key, unlocked the door, walked in, and lit his candle. He did pause before he shut the door, and he did look cautiously behind it, as if he half expected to see the back of Marley's head sticking out into the hall. But there was nothing on the back of the door.
Ah, humbug.
Scrooge fastened the door and walked upstairs to his bedroom. He checked his rooms to see that all was right. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa, nobody under the bed. Quite satisfied, he closed his door and double-locked it, which was not his custom. Thus secured against surprise, he put on his dressing gown and slippers and sat down before the fire to take his gruel. The fireplace was old and was paved around with quaint Dutch tiles designed to illustrate the scriptures, and yet that face of Marley, 7 years dead, came like the serpent that Moses changed his staff into, and it swallowed up all of the images in the tile.
Oh, humbug.
As Scrooge threw his head back in his chair, his eyes rested on a disused calling bell. With inexplicable dread, he saw this bell begin to swing.
Humbug. I won't believe it.
The bell rang softly, then louder. Then more bells rang, louder and louder. They stopped. Then clinking noises, soft at first, then louder. Dragging chains. Sound of a door opening violently. Sound of somebody on the stairs, while the clanking and the steps got louder. Scrooge's color changed when it came through the heavy door and passed into his room before Scrooge's eyes. Scrooge thought, I know it. It's Marley. It's Marley's ghost. The chain Marley dragged was long and wound about him. It was made of cash boxes, keys, ledgers, and deeds, rotten steel. His body was transparent. Scrooge could look through the ghost's vest and see the 2 buttons on the back of its coat. Scrooge felt the chilling influence of its death-cold eyes, but he was still incredulous and fought against his senses.
How now? What do you want with me?
much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Well, who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. You don't believe in me, do you?
No, I don't.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Well, because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more of gravy than of grave alone, whatever you are. No, mercy, dreadful apparition. Why do you trouble me?
Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me or not?
Well, I do. I must. But why have you come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk among his fellow men. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world and witness what it cannot share, what might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness. Oh, woe is me.
Why are you fettered with chains?
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link. I gird it on my own free will. And of my own free will, I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? The weight and length of the coil you bear was as heavy and as long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Oh, Jacob, speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give, nor can I tell you what I would. A very little time is all that is permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house and life. Now weary journeys lie before me. Any Christian spirit working kindly will find its mortal life too short for its vast means of usefulness. But no regret can make amends for one's life opportunity misused. Oh, such was I.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business? Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the ocean of my business. At this time of year, I suffer most. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down? Why did I never raise them to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode? Hear me, my time is nearly gone. I'm here to warn you that you have a chance to escape my fate, a chance and hope that I...
You were always a good friend to me. Thank you.
You will be hunted by 3 spirits.
Is that the chance you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
Well, I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you have no hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1.
Well, couldn't I take them all at once and have it over with, Jacob?
Expect the second on the next night at the same hour, the third upon the next night at the last stroke of 12. Look to see me no more. For your own sake, remember what has passed between us.
The apparition walked backwards away from Scrooge, dragging his chains. At every step, the window raised itself a little, so that when the spectre reached it, it was wide open. The air was filled with phantoms wandering hither and thither in restless haste, moaning as they went. Every one of them wore chains like Marley. Oh. The ghost, after listening a moment, joined in a mournful dirge and floated out upon the dark night. Scrooge closed the window and examined the door by which the ghost had entered. It was double locked, and the bolts were undisturbed. He tried to say humbug, but stopped at the first syllable. And being exhausted, he went straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep upon the instant. When Scrooge awoke, it was still dark. Marley's ghost bothered him exceedingly. Was it a dream or not? Scrooge lay in the state until the bells struck 1 on his clock. A light flashed up in the room. The curtains of his bed were drawn back, and Scrooge found himself face to face with an unearthly figure. Like a child, yet not so like a child, as like an old man. It wore a tunic of the purest white, bound by a lustrous belt. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am. I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, just your past. I am here for your benefit.
Oh, well, I'm much obliged, but an unbroken night of rest might be more helpful.
Look, I am here to save your soul. Take heed and come with me.
The spirit clasped Scrooge gently by the arm.
Rise and walk with me.
It would have been in vain for Scrooge to protest. The grasp, though gentle, was not to be resisted. Scrooge rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window, he pleaded.
I'm immortal, and I will fall.
Take my hand then, and you shall not fall, but will be upheld in more than just this.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall. The city vanished, and they stood on an open, snow-covered country road on a clear, cold winter day.
Oh, my God, good heaven. I know this place. I was a boy here.
Your lip is trembling. And what is that? Is that a tear on your cheek?
No, it's nothing. Nothing. Lead me where you will.
Do you remember this way?
Remember it? I could walk it blindfolded.
As they walked along the road, Scrooge recognized every gate and tree. Here some boys coming towards them in great spirits from a school up ahead.
Hey, ha, ha. Oh, look at that.
Hey.
The boys shouted to each other and filled the fields with their laughter and joy at the holiday from school. Scrooge knew and named them every one. He rejoiced beyond all bounds to see them. He called to them.
Tom, Jim, Bill.
But they did not answer.
These are only shadows of the things that were. They cannot see us or hear us.
The fields faded and they were inside the school. A solitary child abandoned by his friends was still there. A lonely boy reading by a feeble fire. Scrooge wept to see his poor, forgotten self as he used to be.
Oh, poor boy. I wish, but it's too late now.
What's the matter?
Nothing. There were children singing Christmas carols at my door last night. I should have given them something. That's all.
Come, let us see another Christmas.
At those words, Scrooge's former self grew into an older boy, and the room became a little darker and more dirty. He was alone again. All the other boys had gone for the holidays. The young Scrooge glanced anxiously towards the door. It opened. A little girl, much younger than the boy, came darting in. She put her arms about his neck, and often kissing him, addressed him.
Dear, dear brother, I have come to bring you home, dear brother. Home forever and ever. Our Father is so much kinder. Home is like heaven. And he spoke so gently to me one dear night that I asked him if you might come home too. And he said yes. And he sent me in a coach to bring you. We'll be together Christmas and have the merriest time in all the world.
As the image faded, the spirit spoke to Scrooge.
That was your sister. She was always in delicate health, but she had a good heart. She died a married woman and had children.
Just one child.
Yes, true. Your nephew, Fred.
Suddenly, the school was gone, and they were in a busy thoroughfare of a city. The spirit stopped at a certain warehouse door.
Do you know this place?
Know it. I was apprenticed here. There at the desk is old Fezziwig. Bless his heart. It's Fezziwig, alive again.
Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock. He rubbed his hands and adjusted his waistcoat, laughed and called out in a comfortable, jovial voice.
Yo-ho, my boys. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up. Hilly-ho, clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick. Ebenezer.
The warehouse was as snug and bright a ballroom as you could desire. In came a fiddler with a music book. In came Mrs. Fezziwig. In came the 3 Mrs. Fezziwigs and 6 young followers whose heart they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. The music started, and away they all went, 20 couples at once, half around and back again, and down the middle and up again. Oh, what festivity! But the greatest effect of the evening was when old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. Such a time! There were more dances and cake and food and plenty of beer. During the whole of this time, Scrooge acted like a man out of his wits. His heart and soul were in the scene with his former self. He remembered everything. He enjoyed everything. He underwent the strangest agitation until he remembered the ghost and became conscious that it was looking full upon him.
Don't you think it a small matter to make these silly folk so full of gratitude? Why, he spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he would deserve all this praise?
Small. It isn't that, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune.
What's the matter?
Nothing in particular. I would like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk right now. That's all.
No time. My time is growing short. Quick, come along.
Again Scrooge saw himself, this time as a young man. By his side was a fair young girl in whose eyes were tears. She had come to a hard decision as she addressed the young Ebenezer Scrooge.
It matters little to you, Ebenezer. Another idol has displaced me. Gold. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both young and poor. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man. I release you.
I was a boy. I've not asked for a release.
No. Not in words,
Well, in what then?
in a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in everything that made my love of you have any worth or value in your eyes. Tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now?
Young Ebenezer Scrooge answered not as the girl continued.
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. But if you were free today, would you choose a penniless girl? You who weigh everything by gain? I don't think so. I release you. May you be happy in the life that you have chosen. Goodbye, Ebenezer.
At that, she turned and walked away as the image of Scrooge's past faded.
Spirit, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
One shadow more.
No more. I don't wish to see it. Show me no more.
Suddenly, Scrooge was in his own bedroom. Exhausted, he fell into bed in a heavy sleep. Scrooge awoke with a start in his own bed. The clock bell struck 1. Seeing a blaze of light streaming from the adjoining room, he got up, and placing his hand on the latch, he heard a strange voice calling for him to enter.
Come in. Come in and get to know me better. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Come, look upon me.
The ghost was clothed in a simple green robe, bordered with white fur. Its feet were bare, and on its head was a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. It had a genial face, a sparkling eye, and a joyful air. In its hands was a torch.
You have never seen the like of me before.
Never, never.
Have you ever walked with the younger members of my family?
I don't think so. Have you many brothers, Spirit?
More than 1,800.
Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went last night on compulsion. Tonight, if you have something to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge did as he was told, and they traveled through the city. People were jovial and full of glee. The butcher shops were still half open. There were great, round, pot-bellied baskets of chestnuts. There were pears and apples clustered in high pyramids, and there was food of all kinds, urgently entreating people to take them home in paper bags. Soon the church bells in the steeples called all good people to church, and away they came in their best clothes with their gayest faces. And yet at the same time there emerged from the scores of by-streets and lanes innumerable people carrying their dinners to the baker's shop to be cooked. The sight of these poor revelers interested the Spirit very much, for she stood with Scrooge and sprinkled incense on their dinners from her torch. It was a very uncommon kind of torch, for once or twice when there were angry words between some dinner carriers who had jostled each other, the ghost shed a few drops of water on them from the torch, and their good humor was restored directly. Or they said, it was a shame to quarrel on Christmas Day, and so it was.
Is there a particular flavor in what you sprinkle from your torch?
There is.
Would it apply to any kind of dinner on this day?
To any kindly given, but to a poor one most.
Why to a poor one most?
Because it needs it most.
The Spirit took Scrooge to the threshold of Bob Cratchit's dwelling. With a sprinkle of her torch, she blessed the home. Mrs. Cratchit was home, dressed in her best but well-worn gown. She was cooking with the help of her daughters. The younger children watched with delight while dancing about the table. They had smelt the goose that had been brought from the baker's, and they knew it was for them.
What has ever gotten into your precious father and your brother Tiny Tim? Where are they? Dinner is almost ready. Where is Martha? She wasn't this late last Christmas Day.
Here's Martha, Mother. Here's Martha, Mother. Hurrah, there's such a goose, Mother.
Why, bless your heart alive, my dear. Dear, how late you are. Well, never mind, as long as you're here.
Sorry, Mother. I had to work late, but I am here now.
Here's Father coming. Hide, Martha, hide.
So Martha hid herself. In came Mr. Cratchit with at least 3 feet of comforter, exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him, his threadbare clothes well brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch, and his limbs were supported by an iron frame.
Why? Where's our Martha?
Not coming.
Not coming? Not coming upon Christmas Day?
Martha didn't like to see her father disappointed, even if it were only a joke. She came running out from behind the closet door and into her father's arms, hugging him and kissing him. And Bob, for his part, hugged his daughters to his heart's content.
And how did little Tim behave today?
As good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much. He thinks the strangest things I've heard. He told me that he hoped the people saw him in church because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day, which was who made the lame beggars walk and the blind men see.
Bob's voice trembled when he told them this, and it trembled more when he said that Tiny Tim was growing stronger every day, because that was not the case. At this point, the older children entered, bearing the goose in high procession. It was a scrawny bird, but by their attention you would think it was the most sought-after bird in the world. Quickly, the rest of the feast of potatoes, applesauce, and Bob's special punch was set upon the table to everyone's glee. Never, all agreed, was there such a goose. By the time all was served, there were only bones left, and yet it was a sufficient dinner to serve the entire family. It was followed by Mrs. Cratchit's wonderful boiled pudding, such a feast. When all had eaten, the Cratchit family drew round the hearth. At Bob Cratchit's elbow stood the family display of glass, 2 tumblers, and a custard cup without a handle. But these held the hot punch from the jug just as well as if they had been golden goblets. Bob served the punch with beaming looks. He then proposed a toast.
A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
I'll give you a toast to Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a good piece of my mind to feast upon.
My dear, think of the children. It's Christmas Day.
It should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, when one drinks to the health of such an odious, dingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. No, he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, come on, it's Christmas Day.
I'll drink to his health for your sake and for the day's, not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm sure he's very merry, very happy. I have no doubt.
Once again, Scrooge and the ghost were outside on the street.
Spirit, tell me, will Tiny Tim, will he live?
I see a vacant seat at the poor chimney corner and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No. Oh, no, kind spirit. Say he will be spared.
What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population. Have you discovered what the surplus is and where it is? Will you decide what men shall live, what men shall die? It may be that in the light of heaven, you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child.
Scrooge bent before the ghost's rebuke and, trembling, cast his eyes upon the ground. Once again, Scrooge and the ghost traveled through the night until they arrived at the home of Cratchit's nephew, Fred. Inside, a festive Christmas party was underway.
He said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live. He believed it too.
For shame for him, Fred.
Janet, he's a comical old fellow. That's the truth. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
I'm sure he is very rich, Fred. At least you always tell me so.
What of that, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. I'm sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? He does. He takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? He loses a very good dinner. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him. He may rail at Christmas till he dies, but I intend to go there in good temper year after year and say, Uncle Scrooge, how are you? Here, everyone, let's drink to my Uncle Scrooge. To Uncle Scrooge, hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
All responded to Fred's toast with a hearty "To Uncle Scrooge." As Scrooge watched the partygoers and the parlor games they played, he became quite light of heart.
We must go.
Can we stay a little bit longer?
My life upon this earth is very brief. It ends at midnight.
Tonight?
Tonight at midnight. The time is drawing near.
Oh, pardon me, but I see something strange behind you.
The spirit drew aside its robe to disclose two thin, wretched-looking children.
The girl is want, and the boy is ignorance. Beware of them both, but most of all beware of the boy, for on his brow I see written the word doom.
Are they your children?
No, they are yours.
The clock was striking 12. Outside the wind blew and there was thunder and lightning. Scrooge found himself standing alone in the dark. From the midst, a phantom slowly and silently approached. It was shrouded in a deep black garment which concealed its head. Its presence filled Scrooge with dread. The spirit spoke not a word.
I'm in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?
The spirit answered not, but pointed onward with his hand.
Are you about to show me shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen?
The ghost nodded slowly in silence.
Oh, ghost of the future, I fear you more than any other ghost I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to be different from what I was, I am prepared to bear you company. Will you not speak to me?
The ghost gave him no reply, but his hand was pointed straight before them.
Lead on.
The city sprung up around him. The spirit stopped beside a little knot of people. Seeing the ghost's hand pointing to them, Scrooge advanced to hear their talk.
No, I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
What was the matter with him? I thought he would never die.
God only knows.
What has he done with his money?
Well, he didn't leave it to me. That's all I know. It's likely to be a very cheap funeral for upon my life. I don't know anyone who would go to it.
Suppose we can make a party of volunteers.
Well, I don't mind going if a lunch is provided. When I come to think of it, I might have been his best friend. He would say good day to me when we passed on the street.
The street scene faded, and Scrooge found himself in a dingy, foul-smelling second-hand shop in a part of town that reeked with crime, filth, and misery. On the floor of the shop were two bundles. The possessor of each stood by their spoils as the shop owner looked them over.
Well, I see you all came from the same place. His housekeeper and laundress. We'll let Miss Dilber go first. Let's see what you have, sweetie.
Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did.
That's true indeed. He has always taken care of himself for sure. Who is a loss for a few things like these? Not a dead man.
No, indeed. If he wanted to keep them after he was dead, why wasn't he nice in his lifetime, the wicked old screw? If he were, he'd have had someone to look after him when he was struck with death, instead of lying, gasping out his last, alone, by himself.
True, it is a judgment on him.
Mrs. Dilber, what do you have?
I have sheets and towels, 2 silver teaspoons, some boots and clothes.
The shopkeeper examined each item carefully before paying Mrs. Dilbar for them. The laundress was next.
Now undo my bundle. Bed curtains.
You took them down, rings and all, with him lying there? You were born to make your fortune.
All the while, Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror.
Spirit, is there no one who feels remorse for this man's death? Please, let me see some tenderness connected with a death.
The scene changed again. Scrooge thought that he recognized the street they were on. They walked until they found themselves in front of Bob Cratchit's home. The family was seated around the fire. All were very quiet. Mrs. Cratchit wiped a tear from her eye.
Working by candlelight hurts my eyes, but they are better now. I would not want your father to see my eyes watering when he comes home. It must be near his time.
Rather past it, but I think he walks a little slower these last few evenings, Mother.
I have known him to walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulders very fast.
So have I.
But Tim was very light to carry. Father loved him so. It was no trouble. There's your father at the door now.
Mrs. Cratchit and all the children, except for Tiny Tim, who was not present, went running to greet Mr. Cratchit. Each seemed to be consoling the other.
I went there today. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is, but you'll see it often. I promised him that I would walk there on a Sunday. My little child, oh, my little child. I know, my dears, that when we remember how patient and how mild he was, although it was a little child, we shall not quarrel easily among ourselves, or we forget poor Tim by doing so.
Spectre, I feel that our parting moment is at hand. Tell me, who was the man that had died, for whom there was no remorse?
They walked until they reached an iron gate at the churchyard. Scrooge paused before they entered. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. Scrooge advanced towards it, trembling, but stopped and looked at the spirit.
Before I draw nearer to the stone you are pointing at, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or are they the shadows of things that may be? Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, but if the courses be changed, will the ends change? Oh, say it is so with what you've shown me.
Still the ghost pointed without saying a word. Scrooge crept to the stone, trembling as he went, until he could read the name on the stone. It was his own, Ebenezer Scrooge.
No, Spirit, no. Please, Spirit, please hear me. I'm not the man I was. Why show me this if I am past all hope? Good Spirit, that nature intercedes for me and pities me. Assure me that I yet may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall thrive within me. I will not shut out the lessons they teach. Oh, tell me, I may sponge away the writing on this stone.
As he pleaded with the spirit, the ghost collapsed and dwindled down into a bedpost. Scrooge's very own bedpost, in his very own room. Scrooge had been sobbing violently in his conflict with the spirit. His face was wet with tears. He scrambled out of bed, hardly believing he was still alive.
I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, be praised for this. I don't know what to do. I am as light as a feather. I am as happy as an angel. I am as merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to the entire world. Hello there. Hello, world. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Never mind. I don't care. I'd rather be a baby.
Are the herald angels sing glory to the newborn King? Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. All the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
Scrooge ran to the window and opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist, just clear, bright, jovial, stirring cold, golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet, fresh air. Oh, glorious, glorious. Scrooge called down to a young workman walking in the street.
You, my good fellow, what day is it?
The man stared up in surprise.
What? Today? Well, it's Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day? I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. Oh, they can do anything they like. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow. Do you know the butcher shop down in the next street?
I should hope so.
An intelligent fellow, a remarkable fellow. Do you know whether they sold the prize turkey that was hanging up in a... Not the little prize turkey, the big one.
What? The one half as big as me?
Oh, what a delightful man. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
It's hanging there now.
It is? Well, go buy it.
With what? I have no money.
No. I'm serious. Go and buy it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown.
The man was off like a shot. Scrooge found a scrap of paper and wrote down Bob Cratchit's address.
He won't know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. Oh.
Scrooge giggled all the way downstairs to open the door for the coming of the butcher. As he stood there, the door knocker caught his eye. He patted it with love, just as the butcher was arriving with the turkey.
Here's the turkey. Hello, turkey. How are you? Merry Christmas. Why, that's so big. It's impossible for you to carry that to Camden Town. You must take a cab.
The chuckle with which Scrooge said this, and the chuckle with which he paid for the turkey, and the chuckle with which he paid for the cab, and the chuckle with which he compensated the workman, were only to be exceeded by the chuckle with which he sat down in his chair again and chuckled until he cried. Shaving was not an easy task, for Scrooge's hands continued to shake. But if he had cut the end of his nose off, he would have put a piece of sticking plaster over it and been quite satisfied. He dressed himself all in his best, and at last got out into the street. There the people were by this time pouring forth. Scrooge regarded every one with a delighted smile. He looked so irresistibly pleasant that 3 or 4 good-humored fellows said, "Good morning, sir. A Merry Christmas to you." Of all the happy sounds Scrooge had ever heard, those were the happiest in his ears. He had not gone far when he saw coming towards him the lady who had walked into his counting-house the day before, looking for donations for the poor. He went straight to her with a check in his hand.
My dear lady, how do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you to collect for the poor. A Merry Christmas to you.
Mr. Scrooge.
Yes, that is my name. And I'm afraid it may not be a pleasant name to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness to take this?
Scrooge handed her a check, which she looked at with great surprise and disbelief.
Lord bless me, my dear Mr. Stooge. Are you serious?
If you please, not a penny less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you.
My dear sir, I don't know what to say.
Well, then don't say anything, please.
Scrooge went to church, then walked about the streets, watching the people hurrying to and fro. He patted children on the head, questioned beggars, and looked down into kitchens of houses and up to the windows. He found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps towards his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he finally had the courage to go up and knock. But he made a dash of it, and he did it. The maid answered the door. Scrooge followed the woman upstairs to the dining room. He turned the door handle cautiously and leaned his head into the room.
Fred?
Why, bless my soul, who's that?
Oh, it's your Uncle Scrooge. I've come to dinner. If you'll let me in.
Let him in? Fred was overjoyed. It's a mercy that Fred didn't shake his arm off. In 5 minutes, Scrooge was at home. Nothing could be heartier or happier. The next morning, Scrooge was early at the office. He had his heart set on catching Bob Cratchit coming in late. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. Bob was a full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door open wide that he might see him come in. Bob's hat and comforter were off before he slid through the door. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. Scrooge growled in his accustomed voice, at least as near as he could feign it.
Hello. What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I'm behind my time.
Yes, you are. Step this way, sir, if you please.
It's only once a year, sir. Shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
And now, my friend, I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing anymore. And therefore, I'm going to raise your salary. A Merry Christmas, Bob. I want to help your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a bowl of Christmas punch.
Scrooge was better than his word. To Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, as good a man, as the good old city knew. Now some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he did not care. He was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for the good that some people did not laugh at in the beginning. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He had no further intercourse with the spirits, and it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well. And may that be truly said of us all. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, every one. We here at First Baptist Church wish you all a most blessed Christmas. God bless everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you all.
God bless us, everyone.
Merry Christmas to one and all.
Have a blessed Christmas.
Have a very happy holiday.
Happy holidays and a safe and happy Christmas.
Wishing you and yours a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and God bless.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
God bless us, everyone.